an embargo has been lifted, I can now tell you that my first novel, Vermilion Rising / Drawing Red, was longlisted for the Myslexia's 2023 Children's and Young Adult Novel Award. I am over the moon with that. I didn't expect to get listed. It was a pleasant surprise to be listed, especially because that was before edits. I now have the edits back, so that's given me confidence to enter more competitions. It took a long time for me to get those results back, and the reason they said was it took them such a long time to get back to me was because my novel kept getting voted as a yes through so many rounds towards the shortlist, and that is really, really heartening and a very, very big confidence boost. I am thrilled that I can finally put that out there. Myslexia is a writing organisation and a magazine specifically targeted towards women's writers, but anyone can kind of read it, based in the UK in the north of England. I applied on a whim, and it was a good whim. So now that that is out of the way, and now that my final edits have been completed this month from my editor, I decided to enter more competitions. Now, I've entered competitions with this novel in the past, but I can see where it was failing, where some of the strings needed to be pulled tighter, where some of the grammar, especially on the first page, and some of the phrasing wasn't quite right. But after having the editor go through it, I think it is in a much, much stronger place. And what I find fascinating is where once upon a time, for example, if independently published authors were entering competitions, they would just be excluded. It would be for traditionally published novels only, or people going towards traditionally publishing. Now though, for debut novelists especially, like myself who isn't published yet but kind of working towards it, even if you have self-published, you can still enter some of those works. Some of them stipulate, as long as you haven't sold more than 500 copies or something, which I find very, very good. It shows that there's a direction of change in the wind going on there. So, what did I have to do for some of the other novels? First of all, to finish the edits. A lot of competitions end on the 31st of May. Maybe it's so that people can then get prepped to look at them over summer, I don't know. But that was a deadline that I was aiming for. That I really, really went all out to get those edits finished. And then I had the extra things to do, because every competition wants something extra, whether it's a certain amount of words, a full manuscript, a cover letter addressing this question, and this question, just a general cover letter. And because my novel is YA, I kind of had to play around a lot with those cover letters, because some competitions were for children and young people, some were for the YA, which would have adult crossover. And I think my novel has an appeal, a very broad appeal, to a lot of different people. So I think that will put me in good stead. But it did mean rewriting the cover letter a lot. Thankfully, my editor also said that it worked very well as a young adult novel. It was very strong that way, and it would have adult crossover. So I didn't have any concerns there. I also think with how clean it is, I say clean in terms of no real swearing, any violence is fictional, things like that, that it would be suitable for children as well. Well, I say children, teenagers, mid-teens, kind of around there. Young adult is it depends on the child. Some are a lot more mature than others. I would say the biggest problem I had, other than the cover letters, which the overarching question of why would your novel appeal to kids, or why would it appeal to young adults with adult crossover, was by far trying to chop down my synopsis. Some of them ask for a page synopsis. That is fine. Some of them want a 300-word synopsis. That is a lot less than what I originally had. But I think coming to it from fresh eyes with edits, right, we can cut this, we can cut that, we can cut that, I was a lot more ruthless, and I think I got it to just 300 words exactly. So the next question is, if I'm aiming for indie publishing, why enter novel competitions in the first place? Obviously, if an agent can give me, a good pitch for why traditional publishing would be good, I'm still willing to listen. But first and foremost, it's money. if I can get money, if I, win something, to then go towards my own publishing journey, that would be fantastic. It does cost a lot to put out a very, very high quality product, and that is something I'm working towards, and it's something I do not want to skimp on. The other thing is prestige. So I can now say that my novel was longlisted for the Dyslexia Children's and Young People's Awards. That is something I can now put up on Amazon as a selling point for my book. That, even in indie publishing, is still industry recognition. You can still get that, but in different ways. And I'm so thankful for dyslexia, but I think now that it has actually been edited, it could go further in other competitions. So I've taken the plunge, and now I just have to sit back and wait. That's the long and short of it. Just wait, and in the meantime, do something else. Now, for a long time, I think my editing has been the something else. My goal this year, my New Year's resolution, was to write the first draft of my second novel. Now, the question is, have I just been trying to pursue a different goal while the opportunity kind of arose? Or have I gotten distracted? Or have I been procrastinating? Because I haven't written an awful lot of novel 2. I've still done some words, and I put that entirely down to attempting the fabulous Joy Paul's idea of separating each day specifically for a different project. That's the only reason I got any work done at all this month, admittedly, on novel 2. For some reason it's like pulling teeth. The last time I had this with novel 1 during the drafting process, it was because there was something wrong with the novel, i.e. the plot wasn't working, it wasn't strong enough, the relationships weren't there, it wasn't so in depth. And I know that it's not. And it's not going to be. Not yet. Because that comes with revisions. And for me, revisions are magic. It's what turns a story into a book. I just keep having to push through to get there. So in what ways have I potentially got distracted or procrastinated? I wrote a short story and entered a completely different competition that wasn't even on radar. Yep. I just found a short story competition online. The deadline was the next day. I wrote a short story, I quickly edited it, and I sent it in. It was nice, it was a palate cleanser, completely different to what I'm doing now, quite a bit more philosophical I think, a bit more metaphors, kind of unreliable narrator going on. That was fun. And then the other big distraction, back to novel 1, after the edits, alongside sending it off to all the competitions. I bought the software Atticus, which is kind of a stripped down version of Vellum. And what Atticus does is it lets you format your novel in different sizes, trims, to lay it all out on pages, to get it ready to export as PDFs, as EPUB books. And I've been having a lot of fun with that, both for in the interior of a paperback and a hardback, but also for the interior of a large print book, which I am really set on producing. That was a lot of fun, but once again, I've gone as far as I can with that until I can hire a proofreader and a cover designer, which I'm saving up for, so that's on hold. I have to get to the point of getting back to novel 2 and getting into that. So let's see how much I did accomplish this month. Every month I track the words I write, any fresh words that I write for any novel or short story in this case, and then I also track any time I've spent on anything else writing related. For example, editing or rewriting the synopsis or novel competitions, things like that. And I write it in this notebook. So at the end of the month, I can go through, tot up what I've done, and reward myself according to a tariff. The tariff this month was for every 500 words or every 20 minutes that I've worked on something else, I could give myself 1 gold star. Then for every 10 gold stars, I could give myself the reward of trading it in for 1 more book that I can buy. Or as it were, since I'm saving up, 1 more book that I can ransack from the library or request that they buy in. So you can see that I kind of started out well with going from project to project, kind of bouncing around there. So one day I'd do words, one day I'd do minutes, one day I'd do words, one day I'd do minutes. And whenever things came up, so like larger things in life, you can see where there's gaps is unfortunately where I would have written words. So that's something to look at, is there has been a definite bias towards getting the edits done, and then the edits just exploded in terms of productivity. You can see how much I really got into them, pushing forwards. Originally I was doing things like, I'll try to do one scene a day, just edit one scene a day and that's fine. And then the momentum built up, and then it became a chapter, and then it became more chapters. Then after that I decided to throw myself into formatting and throw myself into novel competitions, and this is what happens with autistic hyperfocus. Yeah. Lots and lots of editing, synopsis rewriting, cover letters, you name it. Novel 2 went out the window in favour of novel 1. And that is just astonishing. I worked for over 32 hours on other stuff this month. Word count is down there at 2,579 words, but around 500-600 of those were for a short story. 99 stars. That is record breaking. Absolutely record breaking. That's the equivalent of 9 new books. I'm going to have to go online, see what the library has digitally, see what I can get in person and when I can get there. And now on to the new month. We will draw a line under that record breaking month. I'd say it was very, very productive still, even if not towards my New Year's resolution, but that's for next month now. I really need to get back into getting words. So, multiple sprints. What I've been doing this month is just sitting down, writing for how long I feel like it. When I get bored, just kind of leaving. That normally lasts about 20 minutes, half an hour. I need to knuckle down to get this thing written. So I'm thinking, right, I'll do what? I'm going to aim for an hour a day. And I will split that up if I need to. So I might do 120 minutes, 140 minutes, 160 minutes. Try to push myself through to get to the end of this scene, to get the end of a chapter, and maybe start the next one. Just to build up that momentum again. I think I'm going to be doing that partly in my own time. You might see me more on YouTube jumping into live write-ins again. Novel 2 is where my concentration needs to be at, and I need to get my head back into that story. So to do that, I'm going to be lowering my tariff as a bit of an incentive. So instead of for every 500 words I'll get a star, I'm going to lower that to 400 words. For every 400 words, I'm going to get a star. And my goal will be, okay, 3 stars a day, 1,200 words. I want that 3 stars to be at least an average. You know, the regular 5-star system when you're rating things from 0 to 5 stars. 5 stars would be incredible. You know, things like that. If I can get that in my head, the 0 to 5 stars for how good of a day of writing it's been, then I think that might be psychologically a way forward for me. And now for the part you've probably all been waiting for if you'd seen last month's video, a kitten update. If you weren't aware, I took in 2 kittens as part of an emergency rehoming situation last month. And I say last month, now we've had them for just over a month. And they're nearing 5 months old. They will be turning 5 months old on the 4th of July. They are now sporting new bright orange collars, and we seem to be settling into a rhythm now of them living here. They seem to like the house, everything we've done for them. There's a couple of cat towers, some cat grass which needs a bit more water. So, you know, they come and join me a lot now when I'm writing. I've also managed to get them out safely into the garden for their age, in a tent, to enjoy the fresh air, and to see them trying to catch bugs and things has been really, really fun. I've also taken a DNA test because I don't know where these cats came from. I got them from someone who ended up rescuing them from another situation. They were taken from their mothers early, so they were bottle fed. So they are very used to people. They are very, very good with people. On the other hand, they can be a tad clingy. On the other hand, though, that is very cute, and I'm essentially never without some sort of lap kind of cat now. So, we DNA tested one of the two cats. Their names are Thelonious and Karibo. Hello. Speak of the devil. This is Thelonious, just joining me at the window. You can see the nice new orange collar there. Oh, you coming? Yes, there you are. Oh yes, the purrs. All the purrs. So, this one is Thelonious. Just another brief explanation of the names. The name Karibo comes from the very, very, very fluffy jewel monster from the franchise Yu-Gi-Oh! And Thelonious, you can either say comes from two places. Either the jazz musician Thelonious Monk, or the executioner in Shrek. Either way, it is a fantastic name, and Thelonious over there has really taken to it. It has a bit of a gravitas about it. Karibo, on the other hand, is quite a bit more fluffy in his coat than his brother is, even though they're both all black cats. Karibo's is fluffier, and this came back in his DNA results that he had one allele for long hair, which I expect if we then DNA tested Thelonious here, would just come back as short. Now the breakdown for Karibo, he is 55% British domestic cat, which essentially means a moggy. He's average house cat. He is very, very mixed heritage. He is 23% American domestic cat, 12% European short hair, 8% Norwegian forest cat, and 2% Scottish fold. Okay then, interesting. Thankfully, no inherited health conditions, which we are very, very thankful for. But we have been taking these guys to the vets, getting them their vaccines, things like that. And shortly we're going to be taking them to get microchipped and some other things. And that's it for my month. Did you get any good news? Do you have any good news to share? Any achievements that you've done this month? If you have, let me know in the comments, and I'd love to hear from you. And that's it for me. I have to go now, as I have novel 2 to write. One day at a time.